Hello and welcome to this Cold Chain IQ podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Charles, editor for Cold Chain IQ, www.coldchainiq.com. Today I'm joined by Taha Yadja, the owner of TechNarts, and will be representing the Republic of Turkey's Ministry of Health at the 11th Cold Chain and Temperature Management Summit taking place in Canada from the 25th to the 28th of February next year. Taha, if you could outline your current role and responsibilities, please.
My name is Taha Yadja. I'm in fact a software developer myself, and I own the company TechNarts, and it's known as Nart Informatics also. And we are developing tailor-made solutions for the industry, and in particular for the pharmaceutical industry. We are working with the Ministry of Health of Turkey, and we developed a system named ITS, which is the abbreviation of İlaç Sistemi, and it's the word-by-word translation of pharmaceutical track and trace system. We track and trace all pharmaceutical units individually by using our central management software, and all our stakeholders are notifying us about every action that's taken on every single drug unit. So on behalf of the Ministry of Health also, I am attending some conferences and seminars and telling about our story and our experience.
How did the ministry and yourselves deal with such a huge amount of data, as you're tracking every single shipment?
Thus, in fact, we are using a database data repository, central data repository, and we are using web services for our stakeholders to use. They use these web services to notify us about every action, and we have a data center and terabytes of disk spaces, and as we are using technological things to manage such a data, and also we are developing a support decision system and simply a reporting service for the Ministry of Health to control the industry.
And what were some of the challenges that the Ministry of Health wanted to overcome?
The first aim of the project was to guarantee reliable supply of drugs to the patients. And also we have to decide whether a drug is genuine or not. At the first stage, our aim was the public health, and the second aim was maybe not in other countries, but in Turkey, we have a great reimbursement association in Turkey, owned by the government. So about 87% of the drugs are paid by the government. So the second objective was to prevent the barcode scams. I mean, I can explain it like some people take the information of the patients and organize this as a criminal organization, including doctors, pharmacies, and also manufacturers sometimes, and write to the reimbursement company, and they say that they are sold, but in fact they are not. They get the cost of the drug from the reimbursement company, but in fact they didn't really sell that drug. So we prevented. The second objective was to prevent such actions, but we had some challenges. For example, first, to convince the manufacturers was our first challenge, because the manufacturers should invest on their product lines and also invest their software management systems. So it means costs for them. So we made a lot of meetings with the manufacturers, the manufacturer associations, and we convinced them as saying that that's also beneficial for them, because they are losing money because of this counterfeit and because of these barcode scams. So after convincing the manufacturers, we also made a lot of meetings with the pharmacy sector, pharmacies and pharmacy associations, and we changed their way of doing their job. Formerly, they were cutting the barcodes to prove that this sale is done, but after our project, they aren't now cutting any barcodes to prove anything to the reimbursement company, because we have the data and we have web services for the reimbursement association to query if this sale is really done or not. So first challenge was to convincing the industry. Then also convincing the politicians was another challenge. We made our regulations first ready for the industry, then made these regulations to the parliament, and they approved these regulations. Then we started this project. But at the end, not just by achieving our first objectives, also we achieved a lot of things. For example, we are now controlling complex recalls, and also we can control the returns, and also we have very valuable data that we can use it to estimate the outcomes of this industry and to make the industry work efficiently.
Obviously, you've talked about the challenges you faced from working on this project. What lessons did you learn?
The biggest lesson that we learned is it's not impossible. First, when we started this project, a lot of people said us that it's a huge data, it's not controllable, it's a huge industry, that's not convincible. It's a big thing to change, so everybody will resist to the change, and you will not succeed to apply this project. But the lesson we learned is it's not as hard as it's said. The full track and trace, I mean, not for just the manufacturers and the pharmacies, also for every stakeholder who takes the drug, who sells the drug, who consumes the drug, is involved in the project. And such a project is not as hard as it's said to be. The lesson learned is this project not just earns money for the government, and also really improves the quality of service to the patients. And also, as a matter of fact, the cost is not a thing that should be afraid of, because the cost can be gained by the industry or the government in just days. So the return of investment of the project is, first they said us that years, but it's in fact days.
And if you were to put an estimate on the cost of counterfeiting?
The cost of the counterfeiting in Turkey cannot be decided absolutely, but it is estimated as our statistics association that we have a total amount of cost of counterfeiting, drug theft, and barcode scams and smuggling. The total of these four things is about $1 billion annually in Turkey. They said us that it's about $500 million to $1.5 billion annually, but we estimated it about, in the middle as $1 billion annually. But the system prevented all four of these, even the drug theft, because in full track and trace, you cannot theft drug to anybody else other than the owner of that drug. So there's no need to steal a drug from anybody because you cannot sell it. So we can absolutely say that we have a cost benefit of about $1 billion a year.
Wow, that's a great saving. In response to this, do you feel that the counterfeiters themselves are becoming more sophisticated?
Yes, of course. It's a good question, because the counterfeit in Turkey is not even 1% now. But the counterfeiters are now using sophisticated techniques to sell these drugs to abroad. For example, they produce the drugs in Turkey also, but they cannot sell it in Turkey. They just get the drugs outside of Turkey, for example, to England, to United States, to Syria, or to Iran, and sell them there. But also they, for example, for phase 1 of our project, it was about 1 year ago, the system was not full track and trace. In phase 1, it was just mandatory for the manufacturers and the pharmacies, but the wholesalers was not included. At that time, they used technologies to find phase 1 products, to sell this product to anybody else that belongs to anybody else. But we turned our system from phase 1 to phase 2, and we prevented all counterfeits. Now it can be done. Also, the counterfeit can be done in Turkey, but it can be done by just combining with the one manufacturer, one wholesaler, pharmacy, doctor, and one government officer. Just such an organization can do a counterfeit. And on behalf of our system makes this counterfeiting sector industry a high risk but low profit sector. So it was before our system, it was a high profit, low risk sector, but we changed it to high risk to low profit. So the counterfeiters now think that, thought that it has a high risk and low profit, so they changed their industry from pharmacy to tobacco sector in Turkey, for example, or to food supplements, for example. So even if you cannot prevent anybody to take a counterfeit drug if he wants to buy one. So you have to develop a code for the brains of the people. So we cannot prevent the people who wants to buy counterfeit on their own willing. But we have some also projects about improving some systems and solutions for that also. For example, cash buys and without reimbursement companies, sales without reimbursement companies. So we are now have a working system. We now have time to investigate on such sophisticated organizations.
I know you're going to be at the conference representing the Ministry of Health, but what are you actually looking forward to at the conference?
The networking is very important for me, because I didn't want to get any information because it's already implemented in Turkey, but I want to share my experiences and my government's experiences with the other governments, and to tell the manufacturers that it's not a thing that should be afraid of. So the conference for me is a place for me to tell my experience and to tell the high-level audience to tell my story, and if they want to ask me something, to give my business card maybe to help them, to help other countries.
Taha, it's been a great pleasure to speak with you, and thank you for updating us on Turkey's pharmaceutical tracking system. For anyone interested in attending the event will be taking place from the 25th to the 28th of February in Toronto, Canada, and you can find out more about the event by visiting www.coldchainiq.com.